Good morning, everybody. I am John O'Loughlin, and welcome once again to my channel, McDuff_2020. And once again, we're at the Charette house where George Webb has extended his charrette for a couple more days and to do some more research and more digging and working on the great books and everything that he's been putting together over the past year. We're going to start a little bit early this morning and welcome everyone to the channel and to the show. I actually don't have a monitor up yet to see what's going on, but maybe just assume that folks gradually are joining us this morning, George, and work our way into the content kind of gently. So how are you? It's a beautiful day here on Mystery Island, by the way, and I actually went outside and took a nice little walk, met with one of our little canine friends, and just just kind of enjoying the morning, but also recovering from what I think has taken me 2 or 3 days to realize, and that is that George, we lost.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I'm not saying I thought this day would happen. We certainly in the whole group here certainly worked every day to make sure that that didn't happen, and we thought, hey, they're going to go in and get the black bag with the blackberries out of the desk of the sergeant of arms. That's where Imran took it from the safe in 2016. That's where, if they were going to get the evidence, that's where they would try to go in, and that's where the girl was shot. So sometimes I mean, just imagine if you were a press reporter at the Dallas Star-Tribune and you said, hey, I unearthed this secret team here, and it's Bissell and it's Angleton, and they have this CIA guy that they have been working with, and he's working with this guy Ruby, the nightclub owner who's running guns, and you got this guy Guy Bannister and Clay Shaw, these two CIA guys that are running this operation out of downtown New Orleans, and he works with this Marcello, and there's going to be a triangulation fire at Dealey Plaza. And then here comes the motorcade anyway, and you see the Zapruder film happen in front of you. You know, you're going to be a little bit down. You're going to be a little bit down because you said, hey, this is all going to be the way it happens. Nobody listened, and then it happened. And we had a lot of music last night. I know you weren't able to come, but that helped a lot. I think everyone, who was there, everyone here was there, and they saw that it was a fantastic kind of Woodstock kind of love-in without the rain, without the mud, and without the $8 water. There might have been a shortage of porta potties, and the Mayor Bowser shut down D.C. so people couldn't eat, but it was still a fantastic camaraderie. And it was only a small operation, only a small group, but all the cameras were there. And they pushed out this false narrative of somehow it was a mob. You have actually people using that word like it was really a mob, and not a small group. So what we have to do is say, okay, that's how they play ball. It's information operations, and then we have to look to the heroes that we have to unwind these information operations and tell people the truth. That's our big goal. But I totally get it, John. We did a lot, and it happened anyway.
Well, we were counting on Trump, and we've got some folks in the chat room, and they're saying, never give up. Trump has never conceded. It's not the 20th yet, and so just chill out, John. We've taken some hits, but the game's not over until January 20th, and. Hey, okay, maybe you might be right, but I don't see any evidence.
Yeah. Well, and here's where, how your dad must have felt after Kennedy was killed, because you were there to protect him and get to the bottom of this secret team. The secret team got to Kennedy first. And it's got to be, I don't know what your dad's mood was like after the killing, but he was certainly close with Krulak and all those guys. Do you remember how?
Oh, I was too young, and you see, my father didn't share anything with us about what his job was about. We just knew that he went to work, and he worked for the FBI, and then he worked for the Pentagon, and that was the extent of our knowledge.
Yeah, he's not talking about it. Well, we saw an assassination at that when that girl was shot. That was the Zapruder film of the Trump presidency.
Let's talk about that
Yeah.
incident, because I've looked at that from a number of angles, and actually the Washington Post, as was pointed out to me, because I don't look at the Washington Post, but they actually showed a much more thorough video than the ones that I had seen before. So you could see that handgun, and you in the ones we've seen, the handgun, he had his hand out there with the handgun, waiting. You know, it's like he already had the shot framed, and he knew where the head was going to be when it popped through the window, because the handgun was pointed at the spot, didn't have to adjust or move to fire and kill the lady. And the other thing is that there were two uniformed Capitol Hill police officers kind of standing before the woman gets up to the window. They're standing there just next to the window, and one of them is got a guy punching a hole in the window right over the cop's shoulder. And I'm thinking, what kind of police officer is that? That he's not going to reach up and grab the guy's hand and say, "No, sir, you're not allowed to break the glass of the House of Representatives today. Today is not your day." But it was his day. It was the day of the Capitol Hill police standing down, abandoning their duty.
Well, worse than that, we have film of them on the lower mall side opening the gates for them, and then we have film on the other side of Supreme Court of a black woman cop waving them up and into the Capitol steps.
Yeah.
So it seemed like it was complicit. Again, it seemed like a secret team type operation where, you know, there's just a whole lot of things that don't make any sense about one person being the one person to defend all the senators and Nancy Pelosi from all the mob coming in. That was what the fairy tale we were supposed to believe, which, no, the police would be on the other side. The automatic weapons would be facing the other way. You even see that cop bring up level his weapon toward the Senate, right?
Yeah.
And that is the moment, I believe, that the Imran Awan bag of blackberries or whatever they're using for the covert ops left with the guys with the parkas, and that was Nancy Pelosi. Yeah.
The two cops with that army helmets on and the long guns, those guys were right behind that lady.
Yep.
As she was going through the window, and then the Washington Post account says that the reason that the two Capitol Hill police didn't engage was because they saw the SWAT team coming and decided to defer to them, which I don't buy for a moment. I think they were just standing there like they've been told, you know, don't interfere. And they didn't interfere. And it's one of the most shocking things I've ever seen, except for the clowns that they let into the house, the well of the house itself, and up onto the speaker's chair, and you know, with that idiotic shaman's headdress on, and not a single hand was raised to stop those people. And yet, we have a situation where the press has written the story before the events happened. You saw all those parallel headlines, you know, and you heard, you know, if you listen to CNN or any of those, I listened to a couple of little clips, and the announcers are saying, "Oh, this is an assault on the Capitol. This is a revolution. These people are traitors. This is treason." They made those judgments before the event started, and they had their scripts already written.
True.
And it's just like Fletcher Prouty said about the assassination of Kennedy. When he was down in Christchurch, New Zealand, he read a complete biography of Lee Harvey Oswald that had been composed before the shot and was printed on the front page of that newspaper. And he was saying, hey, this is proof that they knew it was going to happen. They had the story already written and printed printed because how else could they have gotten it before all the other press in the world? And just because, well, anyway, George, you can tell I'm really angry right now. I'm angry, and I'm sorry, but I'm angry at President Trump. How could he not have had some means of communication with the American people that they couldn't quash him? It's like Silicon Valley won the war.
Yeah. Well, I do believe there is going to be information that comes out about Pence's chief of staff who had the Trump's Twitter phone, and he left the building of the White House after Trump came back from the speech. Mm-hmm. So Trump's communications were cut off during that critical hour, 1 o'clock to 2:30. But as far as the SWAT team goes, both Addie Ads and I, independently standing on the steps of the Capitol, caught the SWAT team going in, the 4 SWAT members, way longer after, 15 minutes after the girl was shot. We were both on the steps. We both filmed him. Addie was like the 5th SWAT team member. He was so close to filming that. So I know, because I'm an eyewitness to that was ridiculous. Where the SWAT team member would be is on the other side. They made a little barricade right there at the vestibule, at the Speaker of the House's vestibule right there. And that's also where the chief of staff, the sergeant of arms is. The sergeant of arms with the Blackberries, remember the Blackberries that had the sergeant of arms on them? That's the sergeant of arms office there. He was an ex-FBI agent, Kiko, who covered up the 2016 use of these encrypted devices for taking down Trump. But that one, same office gets burglarized. Nancy Pelosi leaves her door open. Chief of staff leaves his safe open, right? And now these devices are stolen, just miraculously. The same safe, same office of the chief of the sergeant of arms, but they would have been on the other side of the barricade. The guys with the long guns wouldn't be with the protesters. They would be on the other side of the barricade, pointing their AR-15s, going, "Hey, if you come through this window, you're going to get it." Right? You would have a show of force. And your father had this situation happen at the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And what did your father do?
Well, he assembled a select regiment or so of soldiers, and he had them issued rifles with big bayonets. Nobody knew that they didn't have any ammunition. And they all went out there and stood at attention with their rifles in front of them and the bayonets pointed up in the sky, and they blocked the entrance to the Pentagon, and those 200,000 marchers stood down. They did not go into the Pentagon, and all they had to do was just push through those guys. But psychologically, my father's plan defeated them. And this, that's just one of 1,000 ways you could have stopped them people. Wes said it very well. He said, a couple of firemen with a fire hose could have stopped those people.
Yeah. Well, and I visited my first trip to Washington, D.C. I went to the Eternal Flame, JFK's Eternal Flame in Arlington. And by the way, we're going to get McDuff into Arlington. But because he didn't play their game is the only reason he's not there right now. But anyway, that's beside the point. But at the Eternal Flame, we were watching the Marine, one solitary Marine, back and forth, 24-hour day. It's honor guard, and it's one of the most sought-after things in the Marines, right? And when they come here to Washington, it's very much a big honor to be that guy. And anyway, some of the people were going to go up to the thing. I don't think they knew the protocol, which means you have to stand back 20 feet.
The memorial.
The memorial, the Eternal Flame there. And all the Marine did was he went from his shoulder carry position, and he went to the ready position, and the bayonet was at a 45.
Yeah.
And he stopped his cadence, his walk, and the crowd stopped like a watch, like a stopwatch. And that is how you do it. That's the McDuff way. And this was contrived. It was a small group of operatives. It was chalk and cheese, night and day difference between whatever happened inside, the theatrics inside. This is why we got taken down. This is why all these stories of people who actually were there, rather than the contrived stories, are all getting taken down. because people don't know that there are people that are out there that are, Lee Stranahan, a great journalist, Lee Stranahan, who called it a mob. He wasn't there, right? It was a sing-along.
I've got a lot of people that think they're very well informed that want to tell me, what they saw, but what they saw was on television.
Right.
Hey, it must be true. I saw it on television.
You're in Dealey Plaza and you're standing behind the president and you're hit with a whole bunch of blood spatter. You tend to think the shots came from the grassy knoll. I'm not a forensics guy with the blood spatter, but I'm just saying that the people who are there are witnesses that you can be used in court. If you're back home looking at whatever, you're dealing with hearsay evidence. This is the point I keep making about the Blackberries, about the Pelosi Blackberries. Imran, get in here. No staff. You have to go to the evidence. You can't call hearsay witnesses.
I think we're never going to see an autopsy report. We're never going to see any crime scene analysis. And, some of the folks on the chat are saying, hey, it's hard to believe a neck shot without blood splattering, all over the place. I'm sure it could all have been theater. And this person could have, that appeared to be a victim could very well have been an actor from all we know. I don't know. I'm just, I'm going along with the common understanding that she was killed. But, people like Mobster have tried to find, a history of her genealogically, try to sort out who she really is, and it's still a mystery to him. I think it's a mystery. It's going to linger for a long time, and that brings me to my other point, which is this was the Reichstag fire of the United States of America. This was the false flag of the century. This is the thing that the press is going to continue to force that narrative upon us until we all either believe it or just recede into the woodwork and stop trying to argue it. This is the Reichstag fire that was set up by the Nazis and blamed on the Jews.
Yeah, I saw your comment on that this morning, and I said, wow, I should have had a V8. That's the perfect analogy. That it is the Reichstag fire, and it is a national information operation to get you to hate someone that had nothing to do with the operation. And they blamed it on one guy, the retarded guy or whatever, and then later that showed that there was like 58 different fire points, and people have done the forensics on the Reichstag, and there's no way one person could have lit it. He was one of a group that he was the patsy. And in the same way, this girl might have been the patsy. But I did find in Ashley Babbitt in Michigan, in Grand Rapids, the home of Eric Prince and Blackwater. 33 years old, I found her picture, and she looked exactly like the person who got shot, and I published it. And she had her three most serious contacts were sort of like a Ahmad Muhammad, and then another spelling of that same name, but different. So two pseudonyms, Muslim names, and then a third one, Redneck Chad. Like, that doesn't sound like a real name. So, I mean, she had 15 different email addresses. One of them was Suicide Rabbit. So I look at the forensics here and say, this looks like the forensics and the metadata point directly back to Grand Rapids and Nancy DeVos, Eric Prince's spy in the cabinet, and Blackwater again. And they're the ones who did the inside operation in 2016. You remember Eric Prince running around trying to get Trump to meet with all these different Arab people to offer him money for Hillary's emails. And it's even though I think this is what we have to do, John, is just keep presenting the information to the American people, the truth, and hope they figure it out.
Yeah, I am. Well, I'm going to stick with this story until January 20th. At that point, unless something quite surprising and positive happens, I'm going to get back to my father's story. I'm going to get back to presenting the real history of our country and our world on my channel. I'm going to get back to refilling the book train with content. Jumping Mouse is helping me tremendously. We've got a number of the books. We've got some 1-hour summaries that I'll be presenting for every book. I'm going to have a 1-hour summary, as well as the 20 to 30 episodes that I usually read from each of the books. We'll be republishing them as soon as we can, but I've been concentrating on supporting President Trump, and I will continue to support President Trump in any way that I can. George, I don't have any way to help right now, except for to just keep inviting people like you to share what you know. I read to folks in the chat, and I wish that I could agree with those guys that think that there's still some hope with Trump. But I really just, George, it's a tough blow.
It is, and John, the reason, you approached me about your dad's story almost 3.5 years ago,
Yep.
And the reason why, and that was about the 2016 election steal,
Mm-hmm.
and what I saw in McDuff was a person who could offer a layman, even though he was a Harvard lawyer and all this stuff, he could offer a layman a tool set to be able to get through all this disinformation to saw away at the truth. So I look at each book you've read as sort of a hammer and a saw and a level and all these different tools that you need. And they're fundamental tools. Secret team. If you don't understand that there's a secret team that prevents the president from doing what he wants to do and that does these information operations, you're not going to ever get the secret team out, right? That's fundamental. The next book you read was Brothers. If you don't understand that the State Department is just basically the CIA with suits and a diplomatic title and diplomatic immunity, you don't understand how the CIA co-ops Washington, right? And so on and so forth. Each book is one of those fundamental tools to help understand Washington, D.C. so that you can become a really great citizen journalist. And that's why we need, I love that. This is the first time I'm hearing you're going to do the 1-hour summaries. I'm just jumping for joy. That's going to be fantastic.
No, I've already done 2 or 3 of them. The next one I'll do is going to be this Wednesday. It'll be Dr. Mary's Monkey.
Okay, yeah.
Which I think is one of the most important books of the 20th century, 21st century, I guess. But it explains so much that our medical professionals don't tell us. And once you get through and absorb that material, then it becomes fairly obvious why we have all these soft tissue cancers in our country, and it all goes back to the Salk and Sabine polio vaccines being. It was the same bum's rush that they're giving us now about COVID. I mean, I didn't say that. About what's the name of that? I didn't say it. But it's the bum's rush. It's the oh my God, we've got to stop polio right now, and we can't take time to test this. So you end up with that, and then you end up with thalidomide babies and everything else that they don't have time to test, because what they really are doing is they're testing it on us.
Right. Well, I though there's a lot to unpack what you just said, but I did watch your 1-hour summary of Secret Team. If you haven't seen that, that's fundamental. You have to start with that one. Was Jim Mars the second one you're talking about with the paperclip?
I did Crimes of Patriots, I think.
Oh, with Whitney? Okay.
Yeah, Whitney's great book, yeah.
Okay, and that wasn't as in-depth as the Secret Team. Well, maybe it was.
It is in a different way. He focused more on the Nugan Hand Bank and the connections between these Bernie Houghton in Australia and the corruption of Australia. The government of Australia in 1975 was taken over by these creeps. And, the legitimate prime minister, I think Whitlam. Anyway, the Crimes of Patriots is the story of how people who think they're very patriotic, like Admiral Yates and General Manor and all these other, high officers that are actually CIA, think they're being patriotic by running secret operations that we don't know about, the president doesn't know about, and yet it turns us into the ugly Americans. For the rest of the world, we are now the bad guys. I mean, if you see European journalism right now, it's Trump is the great Satan,
yeah.
And there's nobody voicing an opposite opposing position as far as I can see. So my friends over there in Ireland and Italy and the Netherlands, there are some people that follow my channel, and I thank them for it, and I know that they're doing the best they can over there, but the media is even more controlled over there, if that's possible, than it is over here, in my opinion. So they all are thinking that get rid of Trump and the world will be rosy again.
Yeah, I think I saw you in a little bit of a Twitter storm this morning with some folks about that. Again, we need to have a sort of Warren Commission about the assassination of Trump. This little school play that happened there in the vestibule, that Nancy Pelosi's vestibule, along with the Sergeant of Arms. We need a Warren Commission. How did this all happen? Right? They're going to try to cover this up. What was exactly taken? Give me the serial numbers of those laptops. Give me the serial numbers of the communication devices. We said Imran Awan has swapped out all the BlackBerries, 150 phones on Capitol Hill for iPhones. So where did those 150 go? And Imran before, if you remember, it was a burglary of 20 offices to get rid of the leftovers of the operation. This was even better because we'll blame the Trump people. And then we won't even have to blame Imran for the theft of the 20 laptops. This is why I don't believe that. I love General McInerney. I love Ann Vandersteel. I love Mel K. I love everybody who's trying to help. But I see what actually is happening. And if we don't arm people with this history and these tools, we're going to lose again. Yes, I love the fact you're doing these summaries. I thought you were also doing the Jim Marrs book, the Rise of the Fourth Reich.
I did that.
Yeah.
I just don't remember how many of them that I got published before we started doing the Charette.
Yeah, because this intervened. Yeah. So I think we have a lot to offer in terms of tool set. I think building out the rest of that tool set's really important. I'm going to be doing audiobooks. I've got this new color version of McDuff. I don't have the color version yet, but sold a ton of books yesterday, John.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank
you.
The new color version's available in $2. So I appreciate that. And it does show you this, John, if this event is any consequence, people do care. And people do want to invest, not in just heroes for heroes' sake, but heroes that have a tool set to offer that can deconstruct the deep state. That's what people are interested in. And that is your dad. And the further I get in, the more I'm convinced of that. And one of the movies that Tommy Lee Jones made when he was doing movies, producing his own movies, was he starred as sort of a McDuff character. I don't have the videotape yet. I'll try to find a VHS machine. There was only like one in the world still remaining, but it's this Yuri Nasenko KGB. And it's talking about one guy in the little trailer says, and he's standing there with McDuff, and he says, well, sometimes having the false part is just as effective as knowing the truth, because you're knowing what they're lying about. Knowing what they're lying about points you to the truth, right?
Yeah.
And I look at this, and it's just incredibly instructive, because this girl, they're hiding the fact she's from Michigan, hiding the fact she's from Grand Rapids, hiding her identity, all this stuff. Why? Why are all these Grand Rapids shadow games going on? And why is it, again, remember Spectrum Health, where the login into the Trump hotel? People in the press, they talked about Russia and the Alpha Bank logging in. They forgot to tell you about Grand Rapids again, Spectrum Health, Nancy DeVos's Spectrum Health logging in to the Trump Tower. They keep leaving these big muddy footprints, and I just think we just have to be the McDuffs to call it out. Left and right are working together to unseat the people of the United States of America.
Left and right are working together. It's both ends against the middle.
It is.
And that's what it is. It's always that way.
Yep.
That if you study it, they always set up a conflict between one extreme and another extreme. And they profit from the conflict by supplying arms and writers and, psychologists, which is a big part of this, to psych people out. on both sides, and the primary weapon of all of this is fear, is terrorism.
Yeah. Well, there's this gentleman on the internet who I've been attacked, by the way, from Australia, from New Zealand, and also from England. And right now there's a gentleman with a beautiful posh Oxfordian accent.
Yeah.
That's going after me. And it's his accent just exudes welcome trust. If you don't know the welcome trust, it's this thing created by Cecil Rhodes, or a buddy of Cecil Rhodes, to say, hey, can't we spray these people? Do we have to shoot them all? Can't they just get sick and die? Wouldn't it be much more efficient because they were spraying agriculturally, like Monsanto, but we'll just get rid of the people in the mining areas with spray.
Yeah.
And so this, you hear this guy's accent, it just sounds like the Welcome Trust is making another foray into taking down another journalist. But this is the group that responds to our false flag, which is, I don't want to say the C word with the V in the middle and the D on the end.
Yeah.
But they are the ones with the virus, and then they're the ones there with the vaccine.
Yeah, it's the sword and shield.
Yeah.
We got both. It's dual use.
Yeah.
And if you just try us. You want to see which way we go, just try us, We can help you or we can hurt you. It's up to you.
And it's Glaxo Wellcome, which then became GlaxoSmithKline, and Slowway, who runs GlaxoSmithKline, is the guy who's running Operation Warp Speed. So he's getting the vaccine money. So you just see these things. You mentioned Ed Haslam with Dr. Mary's Monkey, and I tell you, going down there to Sarasota or Bradenton and looking at that river and looking at all the things they were talking about with the poisons and stuff, with Lee Harvey Oswald going up to see Gottlieb and try to poison Castro.
Yeah.
When I first met Ed, I didn't have all the background. Now I've done all the research, and there's, Marita Lawrence is a witness, and she says she was sent. She went with Lee Harvey Oswald up to see Sidney Gottlieb with Frank Sturgis. David Ferry flew the plane, came back. The vial, the whole vial thing with the poison, and then try to get her inserted.
Pouch.
Yeah, trying to get her inserted into the inner circle. I mean, the whole story. And she was with Castro for 40 years. There's like thousands of pictures of these people together. So I wouldn't study the history of these information operations if it wasn't exactly repeated so many times. Mm-hmm. It's just a template to understand what's actually happening.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ed Lansdale can, just study what Ed Lansdale did during his life. He spent his life destroying other people's cultures and genocide and, all kinds of fun stuff for the CIA, And who's the CIA working for? They're not working for us. They're working for the big banks in Wall Street and the big banks that support Wall Street from Europe and Great Britain. And that's Adam Smith. This is the survival of the fittest, the hidden hand of history. We'll sort them out,
You mentioned Lansdale, and for people who don't know, he started these counter groups with the Catholic Church in the Philippines, and he dressed some of his guys up as the bad guys, and they went into a village and killed a bunch of people, and then everyone said, "Oh, we need to have an army." And go to a military state. And then that was so successful in Philippines, they brought him to Vietnam to do the same thing, Catholic nation, right? And he failed. And they also brought Colby in from another Catholic nation where that worked. The Gladio armies worked, a very Catholic nation in Italy. And Colby, I believe, this is why we're on this island where Colby died, and we're looking at the river where he died. This is why I think there's so much secret knowledge from Colby, because Colby went to those hearings and did 31 hearings at the church committee, and he talked about the dart gun, right? And I was just thinking about this the other day with TDY and Doug Valentine writing that about your dad. The dart guns are used quite a bit in that mission. The silent dart guns are used to silently kill, and they give them to the Montagnards. So they teach the Montagnards how to use that.
I think the Montagnards taught the spooks how to use them.
Well, they had them. I don't know. I thought they got there from the Pensacola Air Force Base. I can't remember the name of the Air Force Base.
Yeah,
right?
it might be. My recollection was, the Montagnard, how native people will often have a poison dart type of remedy just to kill game, and in Africa.
Well, maybe it was co-opted. Yeah, maybe it was co-opted back to Pensacola. But Doug writes about it one way or the other. But I'm just saying your dad would have been exposed to that idea.
Yeah.
And you could just see these CIA types, with the Bissell types, the Health Alteration Committee types, thinking, hey, we'll use the same thing that he used for the purposes of good on him. Just like they used the money Kennedy set aside to get Castro back on Kennedy to kill Kennedy. So I think there's secrets there. That's one of the things Colby testified in these family jewel. He talks about the family jewels and kind of his absolution at the end of his life, trying to say all these nasty things that the CIA did. So I'm here on this island with you to work those leads as well, not just the ones that end in 1971 with your dad's death.
Let me have that book
Sure.
for a second now. This picture is a picture of my father, Thomas F. O'Loughlin Jr., in about 1951 when he was on his first assignment at the Washington Field Office in Washington, D.C. for the FBI. And, he was there once again to serve his country. He wasn't there, for his own benefit. It's not a very rewarding job, especially when you find yourself assigned to reviewing application files from the State Department's favorite Nazis, trying to get them visas into the United States. Well, that couldn't have been a pleasant job for him, but he hadn't started that yet. Here he is, looking innocent and hopeful, and I'm the tough guy. I can handle this. And I think that it was the Bissell and Helms and Angleton. They just decided that they're going to wear him down. And what I saw during my life was them taking him down over decades. Well, let me just leave you with this, George. My aim is still to get something written, perhaps a book. I'll have something for you by June the 6th, the 50th anniversary of my father's death. I will also initiate the process, as I've mentioned before, of asking Arlington National Cemetery to reconsider their decision not to allow us to bury him at Arlington National Cemetery based upon new information that we've uncovered together and with you and with all the folks who help us with research. I now feel fully armed and ready to present to the Arlington National Cemetery officials a number of reasons that were not considered when they first took up the case. And I think of James Forrestal, the first Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of the Navy during World War II, whose signature I have on a letter to my dad thanking him for his service. He's one of the ones that perhaps didn't qualify under the strict military qualifications for Arlington, but they buried him there anyway. And I think that that's a suitable model for what happened to my dad. Even if you're on the CIA side and you think my dad was some type of an enemy, you have to respect the work that he did. You have to respect his dedication to the country. You have to respect that he gave his all. He gave everything he had. He even gave up his family life in order to serve the nation as a whole. And a person like that, I don't think should be left buried out there next to that creepy mansion in Clinton, Maryland. I really think it's not appropriate. I think he should be with the fellow warriors, the fellow heroes, the men and women that he served with in World War II, the great patriots, and so that's two things that I will be doing as we get past this election. No matter what, I will continue to bring forth the real history of our country that supports everybody needs. You need to understand. You need to understand who the Dulles brothers really were. If you don't, then you don't really have much of a chance. But if you understand that these guys came from that strict Calvinist tradition, in which and on top of that, the fact that they were really lawyers working for Wall Street the whole time, it's like their duty was to their Wall Street clients, and they didn't care about us. They don't care a bit about people that are in any way expendable. They'll just go ahead and pull the trigger. So, excuse me, but President Trump, do something. Give us some hope. Don't abandon us.
Well, on that score, John, Trump can today declassify the remaining 13% of the JFK files, which he said he was going to do in 2017 and should have been done in 2017. He can, which will be a lot of McDuff. We've also discovered another person who has all the de Mohrenschildt files. Remember, de Mohrenschildt is the one who has to do the hocus pocus and make these paperclip Nazis look like white Russians in New Orleans. So that's going to be a huge treasure trove that Carol has brought us with the de Mohrenschildt papers that we thought were lost to history. And that's going to be a big trove. And the other thing President Trump could do is he could, with one stroke of a pen, put McDuff into Arlington Cemetery by executive order, which we would, if you're going to go out and go do a network and do the Trump Broadcasting Network, now we hear that that's pretty much going to happen, then why not, just look back on the people who really exemplified the most, encourage and recognize them. So, yeah.
I wanted to raise one other thing. I have people are always sending us other people's work saying, look at this, and I do. The one that I opened up this morning was a video of Robert David Steele, and he had a couple of British guys on there, a couple of highly thought of experts on MI5 and MI6. Forgive me, I don't remember their names, but he had over 750,000 views on that one video. So that puts him in a league far beyond me in terms of reach. And he and those two guys were talking about the Italian letters, the lawyers from the the affidavits and Switzerland, and how all this is tied together, and that President Trump still has the army on his side. He still has the military. He still has all of these weapons that he can use to turn this around. The executive order on foreign interference. The executive order on foreign interference from 2018 gives him the power to set aside the election. Will he do it? I don't know, but there are hundreds of thousands of people who are finding hope in what Robert David Steele says, and I hope too. I just, what do you think, George, about RDS?
Well, I know him. I met him and talked with him quite a bit, and done shows with him occasionally. I don't want to be one of those guys who sell hopium, and hopium isn't in anybody's best interest. What you need is the tool set, right? It's harder because, at the school, on the schoolyard, you could go sell drugs and, get the kids hooked and make a lot of money right away. I'm not comparing Robert David Steele to hopium, by the way. I'm just saying that I think this is hope not based in fact.
The Italian route.
Yeah. And it's not going to be the reason why Tennessee happened, with the AT&T thing owned by Steve Feinberg, the SunGard building. We have Bill Binney. These are facts, okay? We have Bill Binney. He's interviewed Bill Binney. We know that's where they got all the data, NSA got all the data at the router, right? We know that if you wanted to clear that room, you would do an announcement. There's going to be a bomb. There's going to be a bomb. We know that it was vacated. We know that people got in there then and vacated those servers. Why? Again, this goes back to your dad, Yuri Yunusenko, KGB. The falsehood tells you more sometimes than the truth. Why would you do that? Because the traffic going back and forth to China the night of the election to the Dominion voting systems in Georgia. That's the Raffensperger's Secretary of State. His brother works for Huawei, or his uncle, whatever. I don't know what the relationship is, but that's what they were trying to nail, right? So it's not a satellite in Italy, right? It's not a satellite talking to the Frankfurt servers in Germany, right?
I thought it was the Vatican had released these Italian satellites, and the content was done by the Vatican. In other words, it was a Vatican operation on Italian satellites, and the Italian guys that are saying this happened, it looks plausible. It looks like it may be true. I don't know any reason to not believe them, except for that nobody's picking up the story.
You see how they're breadcrumbing you to outer space. They're breadcrumbing you to outer space. They want you to go into outer space. They want to say these are ancient astronaut or alien type people, or they believe in extraterrestrials.
Oh no, I didn't get that.
Well, I mean, with the satellites, to me, whenever I see, again, the falsehood sometimes tells you more than the truth. When they're taking you away off continent, they're taking you into satellites. It immediately says, I need to look back at Tennessee. If Tennessee hadn't been brought, the house, this FBI, well, first of all, if you've ever had an FBI informant try to get you to build bombs and try to encourage you to go to bomb school, right? So the FBI knew about this guy since May of 2019, and a production company ends up inheriting the house when the guy blows up. Now, to me, that's the production company, the AES, being pretty greedy, if you ask me. But we get drips and drabs of that story. Oh, we now know that he enticed other people to try to do bomb making. Well, why didn't you tell us that when you first? Why didn't you say it was the center of an FBI entrapment operation to begin with? Why didn't you say that to begin with? Why do we have to wait? Why didn't you say there? Oh, by the way, we removed all the servers because we were collecting at the router. These are things. So I see the satellite, and I see that as the falsehood that tells me that Nashville is more important than ever. So that's just my analysis, and you have to follow the scent. Sometimes it's wrong, sometimes it isn't there, but you have to follow your instincts. And again, McDuff wasn't looking for the weapons, for the Bay of Pigs weapons in Dallas at the school book depository. He might have been, but no, the FBI raided Lancome training area for the Cuban exiles in June of 1963. Hey, Kennedy's got a man who's breaking this crap up. We're not going to be able to do our Bay of Pigs. The casino, our solicitors, our clients, they're not going to get their casinos back. What do? You're left with using the money that Kennedy put aside to kill Castro, Operation Mongoose. We're going to use it on Kennedy. This is going to unlock a lot of secrets, and President Trump, you can do something about that this morning.
George, if you don't mind, I want to ask you about one of your theories that I've also been putting a lot of hope in, and that is that there is a good Mossad and there is a bad Mossad. And so, what's up with Bibi Netanyahu today and Jared Kushner and that side of the Trump family? And are they participating, or are they sitting on the sidelines?
I think they are sitting on the sidelines, and the determination has been made. The more you hang around these people and see them off camera, the better sense you get of who they are. And I just get a sense that they're saving, they want Trump to exit now because they're going to try to bring Jared forward later on, as a senator or maybe even a vice president or president. And they're trying to protect his future, or Ivanka's future as maybe, candidate. So I think that they've convinced Trump that, hey, play the long game here. Don't, burn all your bridges right now.
Doesn't bode well for the rest of us.
No, it doesn't. But we have to take our wins where we can get them. I guess that's the bottom line. Yeah.
Well, anyway, McDuff Channel goes on Monday at 11 a.m. Harley Schlanger will be back. So think of your questions for the chat room with Harley, and you can always send him an email at harleysch@gmail.com. And then on Tuesday evening, I'm very excited to bring Garland Nixon onto the show at 7 p.m., an unusual time, but that's the best time for both of us on Tuesday. So Garland Nixon, one of he's just started a YouTube channel, and he's just about to 1,000. So if you have a moment to go to YouTube and add your name to his subscribers, I would appreciate it. I think he's got a great mind. He's got a great perspective. He's had a lot of experience already and worked with
Lee Stranahan
and
fault lines. Yep.
So Garland will be there on Tuesday night. I'm going to keep up going with my minefields and my book readings, and with the help of Catherine Jumping Mouse, we are keeping ScreamingOspreys.com very active. New material every day. So check that out too.
John, thank you for inviting me on your show again and letting us host it here.
Well, thank you for putting up with my a little bit of
You feel better?
A little bit of angst this morning, George. I guess I was on that Twitter battle a little too long. I shouldn't have indulged, but gosh, sometimes it just draws you in, doesn't it?
Do you feel better now?
I feel good.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Because I think everybody out there wants to know that you're happy now, and you kind of.
Well, I'm not happy, George, because I'm still absorbing the news. The news is that we're going to have a Biden presidency on January 20th. That is the worst news I can possibly receive right now, other than some personal tragedy. So I don't really feel good, but I haven't lost my courage.
Yeah.
I haven't lost my determination, but I am disappointed, deeply disappointed in the outcome of the past week.
Well, if you forward this, the folks out there who are watching, if you forward this to your congressman right now, because the Republican guys are looking for a win right now, and just say, please forward this to the president, this request that this hero go to Arlington.
Yeah.
And I think that would be something that, a consolation, but it still would be nice if Trump could declassify those files and put McDuff in Arlington.
Well, thanks, George, and thank you so much for everything that you do. I hope my mood doesn't reflect anything on you, because you've been a prince and 100% behind me and with me on the McDuff story.
Yeah.
And everything you do has been in good faith,
mutual,
with the absolute determination that someday, we are going to restore the freedom, the democracy, the Republic of the United States of America.
Yeah. Thank you.